For 40 million years, Earth did not have a moon. It had rings. You look up at the night sky and expect a solitary gray sphere. You assume the architecture of our solar system is a static, eternal baseline. You are wrong. 500 million years ago, a violet sky was bisected by massive, shimmering bands of crushed rock and ice. Saturn-like halos casting a permanent twilight over an alien waterworld. A world guarded not by reptiles, but by tentacles and armored geometry. You are taught that the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs was the ultimate catastrophe. The KT extinction is a comfortable tragedy. A singular rock hitting a familiar planet. It was a pebble compared to the nightmare that came first. The Ordovician extinction was faster. It was crueler. It erased a globally perfected hierarchy that makes the era of the dinosaurs look like a brief, failed experiment. The Ordovician oceans were 600 meters deeper than they are today. There was no land ice. The atmospheric temperature was intense. The water was a boiling, primordial soup operating at peak biological efficiency. Then, the world froze. A 35 million year winter descended upon a greenhouse planet. An ice age materialized out of nowhere, suffocating a hot ocean. This is a biological paradox. What mechanism could possibly be powerful enough to instantly freeze a boiling ocean without a massive external catalyst? Keep the rings of Earth in your mind. Remember the rings. Before you understand how they fell, you must understand what they ruled. The creatures swimming beneath that impossible sky were not primitive. They were hyperlethal. Engineered for absolute domination over a fluid environment. The Endocerid stalks. It does not swim. It dominates the water column with absolute hydrostatic control. Endocerids, the first animals on this planet to reach 1 ton in weight. They are biological submarines equipped with beak-shaped hullbreakers. A 30-foot ballistic missile of calcium and muscle. Inside the massive, straight cone of its shell lies a network of rigid buoyancy chambers. Siphuncle, a pressurized hydraulic tube running through the shell, regulating gas and fluid like the ballast tanks of a military U-boat. It calibrates depth without moving a single muscle. It locks onto prey using massive, highly developed optic sensors. When the modern mantis shrimp strikes, it relies on speed. When the Endocerid struck 445 million years ago, it delivered 1,500 pounds per square inch of pure mechanical bite force. Enough torque to shatter an industrial diving helmet like a hollow eggshell. Size was not the ultimate weapon in this ocean. Geometry was. Predation breeds innovation. Innovation breeds cruelty. Enter the Eurypterids. Sea scorpions the size of modern humans. They patrol the shallow reefs with compound ice processing motion in a fraction of a second. They are living serrated shivs. Claws designed not to crush, but to lacerate. Hemolymph, pressurized hydraulic fluid driving each limb, pumps through their joints like industrial pistons, propelling them toward movement. They represent a dark milestone in the fossil record. The first known practitioners of cannibalism. The first animals to realize their own kind were a highly efficient fuel source. They stripped the flesh from their own species, recycling biomass in an endless loop of violence. But danger in the Ordovician existed at every scale. You observe the 30-foot Endocerid from a safe distance, watching it drift through the abyss. Then, you look closer, narrowing your focus past the microscopic particles of marine snow, plunging into the spaces between the water molecules themselves until the true horror reveals itself at the absolute limit of your vision. Conodonts. Microscopic, eel-like predators swarming the water column by the billions. Look at the conodont teeth. They are 1/20th the width of a human hair. The sharpest biological structures ever recorded in the history of the planet. Conodont mouth, a molecular scalpel array designed to slice through individual cells. They do not bite. They dismantle prey at the microscopic level, rendering organic matter down to its base proteins. This world was an unbroken chain of biological perfection. A machine of flesh, chitin, and calcium operating at maximum output. Nothing from within could destroy it. The executioner had to come from above. The 35-million-year winter was not an accident of gradual climate shift. It was a 10-second murder. 6,000 light-years away, a massive star collapsed under the weight of its own gravity. It died. In its final moments, it emitted a gamma-ray burst. A concentrated beam of pure cosmic radiation traveling at the exact speed of light. For 10 seconds, the Ordovician sky lit up with a blinding, invisible fire. The radiation slammed into the Earth's atmosphere with unfathomable kinetic energy. It immediately dissociated oxygen from the ozone. Nitrogen dioxide formed, creating a toxic brown smog that physically blinded the planet from the sun. The ozone layer simply ceased to exist. The protective membrane of the Earth ruptured. But the cosmos is rarely satisfied with a single blow. Geological evidence points to a second, devastating pulse arriving in tandem. The Deniliquin crater in modern Australia. A 520-kilometer impact structure buried deep within the crust. 3 times larger than the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. The timing aligns with terrifying precision. The gamma-ray burst stripped the planetary shielding. The Deniliquin impact shattered the crust. Millions of tons of ash and pulverized rock flooded the upper atmosphere. Together, they severed the Earth from the sun. The boiling ocean stopped moving. The trigger was pulled. The Ernantian glaciation begins. Do not think of this as weather. It was ascension cold that pulled the bandage off a vibrant, tropical world. The sensory reality of this event defies human comprehension. First comes the toxic light. With no ozone, extreme ultraviolet radiation bathes the surface. Light itself becomes a corrosive weapon, burning the uppermost layers of the ocean. Plankton liquefy. The foundation of the food web turns to carbon ash. Then comes the weight. As the atmospheric temperature plummets below freezing, water locks into ice at the poles. 250 million cubic kilometers of ice form almost overnight. 10 times the total volume of modern Antarctica. The Earth's crust visibly bows and cracks under the unimaginable physical load. Glacial blue and tectonic obsidian grinding against each other. The sound is apocalyptic. As massive ice shelves fracture and collapse into the dying ocean, they generate acoustic shockwaves. 220 decibels of kinetic violence propagating through the water. Loud enough to instantly rupture the hygrostatic organs of anything caught in the column. And then, absolute silence. The oceans retreat by 125 meters. Millions of miles of shallow coastal reefs are exposed to the freezing air. They bleach. They calcify. They die in the deafening quiet. The creatures of the Ordovician evolved from the bizarre survivors of the Cambrian explosion. They had 40 million years to perfect their armor. They survived the chaotic birth of complex life. They were betrayed by the sky. Those that do not die immediately face a darker fate. The Lilliput effect, a claustrophobic biological shrinking. To survive in a world with no food and freezing water, evolution forces organisms to downsize their chassis. Giant apex predators vanish. The metabolism required to maintain a 30-foot shell is no longer viable. In their place, stunted, miniature versions of their ancestors crawl through the dying reefs. A haunting mockery of their former glory. Generations of creatures trapped in increasingly tiny bodies, desperately conserving energy in the dark. This ancient, alien world died so that terrestrial life could eventually walk onto the mud. We look at their fossils in museum displays and feel a sense of distant superiority. We learned the wrong lesson from their graves. You consider humanity the pinnacle of the evolutionary narrative. You view the history of Earth as a long, unbroken staircase leading directly to us. Look at the trilobite. Trilobites mastered this planet for 270 million years. They diversified into 22,000 distinct species. They adapted to every depth, every pressure, every temperature variant the ocean could offer. Humans have existed for a microscopic fraction of that time. We have built a civilization on the arrogant assumption that intelligence guarantees survival. The Ordovician extinction destroys that illusion entirely. It proves that a 10-second burst of invisible light from a dying star 6,000 light-years away can erase half of all life on a planet. It does not matter how efficient your biology is. It does not matter how perfectly adapted you are to your environment. When the cosmos rolls the dice, biological perfection means nothing against cosmic entropy. Now, bring your mind back to the violet sky. Remember the rings. The very rings that made the Ordovician sky a masterpiece of cosmic beauty were not just passive debris floating in the void. As the Earth was bombarded by radiation and the initial stages of impact winter, the rings did what rings do. They cast a shadow. A colossal, permanent shadow across the equator. Just as the planet desperately needed sunlight to stave off the encroaching ice, the rings blocked the sun. They acted as a planetary heat shield in reverse. They locked the Earth into the deep freeze, compounding the winter for 35 million years. The very structure that made the world beautiful became the mechanism of its execution. In the deep code, beauty is often the first sign of the end. We look up at our solitary, quiet moon and dream of conquering the stars. We build our cities and lay our fiber optic cables, confident in our permanence. If the perfect world, a world of impossible rings, 30-foot giants, and endless reefs, can be completely silenced by a shadow, what makes us think we are anything more than a brief glitch in the deep code?